Come on! Yo, ladies and gentlemen, George Lucas, Frank Darabont, Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg. I know you're all watching. Hello, nice to see you. Welcome to Friday. Friday means that today is, of course, Obscure Movie of the Week.
My God, it's full of stars.
Come on! Today, I'm talking about Little Darlings.
Slide me something nice.
Little Darlings is a 1980 movie which is very interesting, definitely obscure, too obscure, more obscure than it should be, and it is certainly a unique film because it is about young teenage girls trying to lose their virginity. In fact, it is about predominantly two girls at summer camp in competition. They actually place a bet to see which of the girls can lose their virginity first.
I think guys are a pain in the ass. Two little virgins, quaint.
Now, commonly, this is the kind of story that is attributed to younger boys, teenage boys. Films like American Pie were popular when I was growing up, and we thought it was kind of an original idea. It is not an original idea. It has been done before, but what many people and even film fans don't know is that long before American Pie, the movie was actually done with girls. Girls who were younger than the guys in American Pie. Who would have thought it? Who would have thunk it? Nowadays, it might actually be difficult to get away with that kind of a plot, but in 1980, it was possible. Now, one of the things that's good about the movie is it's a good film, it's got a good script, it has a very good score. Now here's the interesting thing. When the movie got to television, they actually cut out those songs. They got rid of them because they didn't want to pay for them, and they replaced them with sound-alike type music. Another thing that makes the original film obscure and difficult to get hold of. If you see it, of course you want to see it with the original score. Another thing that's good about the movie is it has great characters. It's got Matt Dillon in it as one of the guys who the young main girl is trying to have sex with, trying to lose her virginity with, and the scenes between him and Christy McNichol are really good. They've got great character play. There's even a great little line in the film that the two characters say to each other when they meet, which is, "Don't let the name fool you."
What's your name anyway?
Me?
Yeah, you. I know my name.
Yeah, what is it?
Angel. But don't let the name fool you.
Who's fooling who?
You're drunk.
You're cute.
Still haven't told me your name yet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's Randy. Don't let the name fool you.
And one cool thing about that scene and that line is that the movie poster, Little Darlings, has the tagline, "Don't let the title fool you." And that kind of sums up what's good about the movie, i.e. these might be cute, sweet, young, not quite yet bloomed into women, but that doesn't mean they're sweet, wholesome, little, perfect, angelic beings. They are human beings, and the film at least tries to explore that. And the other thing is, the main girl, Christy McNichol, is so good. This is such a good performance. She's so well balanced. She's such an interesting, well-rounded character, and you have to give credit to the young girl, teenager, for actually pulling off this performance to such a degree, because it is not a one-tempo performance. She has to go through many different emotions, and it has to be believable in order for you to actually care about her. And she is incredibly likeable, incredibly lovable, well-rounded enough that in the beginning of the film she's even very much like a tomboy, the kind of young, frustrated girl who doesn't really understand herself and who she is, and is quite aggressive towards boys, but in a very boyish way. One interesting fact about the film, Christy McNichol actually took up smoking just for the film, and it became a habit that she could not kick for 10 years. Only in the 80s would that happen. Would you actually encourage young kids to smoke in a movie for the character? It seems like that would never happen in a movie nowadays.
No, I don't like you smoking.
Actually, when I first saw the film, I thought, oh, this is going to be good because of the first shot of the film, the way it introduces her character. I love the way she walks in front of a washing line, and what's hanging on the washing line obscures the background and you don't quite know what you are seeing, and then she walks forward and the camera follows her in a very beautiful, revealing way, and it kind of sets up the tone with the camera that, you know, almost expect the unexpected. You think you're looking at one thing and then we're going to show you something a little bit different. That's kind of how it felt for me, just because I was like, really? A movie about young teenage girls trying to lose their virginity? Now, it's interesting on various levels, and one of them is because, of course, especially in present day, with feminism being what it is, there's also so much nonsense in media when it comes to how women are. You either get the incredibly sexualized women like Miley Cyrus or Britney Spears or anyone else in the kind of pop industry, and then the opposite of that is this kind of fallacy that girls don't really like sex, that they are not that kind of girl, that they are wholesome and dignified, and sex is just something that men are interested in, and all this nonsense, basically, just complete bullshit. And one thing that's really good about this movie is it's just like, no, girls are interested in sex too, to the point where young teenage girls talk about sex, think about sex, fantasize about sex, and will even do boys type things like have a competition to see who can have sex first, who can lose their virginity first. Of course, nowadays you have things like Sex in the City, but it is all done with a kind of glisten, and it's got the sex amped up. At least this film, Little Darlings, takes the subject of sex seriously.
Angel,
Stop nagging me.
freeze my ass off over here.
And I bet that if they made this movie now, it would be like a comedy. It would be like, oh, we got some young teenage girls and they want to have sex with some guys and it's a competition. And it would just be a comedy. Now, this movie has humour in it, but it's definitely not a comedy, which is interesting. I honestly cannot imagine that a film like this would get made today and not be a comedy, which is certainly to its credit.
I'll bet my residual check
For what? Residual check.
that Paris will become a woman by the end of the summer.
And frankly, it's just really refreshing because you know when you watch it, they don't really make movies like this. It's really uncommon. Not only is the film itself obscure, but the plot is obscure. In fact, it is so obscure that when the movie got televised in the 80s, the television version actually somehow managed to cut out the entire plot, and they redubbed it and changed it so that instead of two girls trying to lose their virginity, they made the TV version so that the two girls were trying to get two guys to fall in love with them. They completely cut the sex and the want for sex, the desire and the passion to actually fornicate with somebody. They cut all of that out of the movie and they released a kind of soapy, safe, antiseptic version for the home population. The director of Little Darlings denounces that TV cut and says he had nothing to do with it and he has no interest in it. I'm not surprised. They completely changed his movie. That being said, the TV cut of young teenagers trying to get boys to fall in love with them is, wouldn't you agree, what most films since Little Darlings that are like this are. There's no end of movies about teenage girls trying to get the boy to fall in love with them, but you don't get many movies where the teenage girls are trying to get the boys to have sex with them.
What about you, smut mouth? What about me, shithead? I think you're into girls.
It even has a scene where these incredibly young girls on their summer camp are actually breaking into male toilets and busting condom dispenser machines off the wall to try and get condoms for when they attempt to lose their virginity. I mean, this is just something that is so unseen, especially in American cinema. I could kind of imagine it being in foreign cinema, but to see it in American cinema is certainly not anything that I would expect to see nowadays, and even of the era when this film came out. Now, it is not a perfect movie. It is not the best movie ever made. It is definitely very good. It does stick in your head. It does make you think. And one thing that I like about it is that, though you may disagree with me, I actually think that oftentimes when you see a film about sex, it is kind of a subject matter that is handed over to adults, and sex is so often given this kind of emphasis as if it is this incredibly adult thing. And for me personally, I kind of get a little bit bothered when that happens, because sex is something that is so incredibly natural to the human race and the animal races as well, that it frustrates me a little bit, because even idiots have sex. The stupidest people on earth have sex. Our ancestors, who could not even speak and certainly did not have the intellects of intelligent people today, they had sex too. That's why we are alive. So I don't think it is something that should necessarily be deemed as incredibly adult. You do not need to be intelligent to have sex. In fact, if you look at the populations of the world, it is actually commonly the less educated populations who have more sex. The less educated people of the world make more babies than the educated. It's even a proven statistic. If an economy is extremely good, the population remains the same, i.e., on average, two people, a couple, usually have two children. So they replicate themselves, i.e., the population does not increase. But in poorer countries, you tend to get a couple coming together and having 12 children or 15 children. So anyway, the point is that I personally think that the mystique and the mystery and the importance and the weight of sex is something that is better told as a story from a young person's perspective. Because to children, sex is incredibly important and mysterious.
Do you realize that I'm almost the only virgin in camp? Every girl knows this secret life except me.
It even, in an interesting way, shows both the honesty of little girls, because you have this very young teenage girl who actually wants to have sex with her teacher.
You sort of want me, don't you?
Which is really interesting, because if that were to come out in a paper, it's always the teacher who gets blamed for it. It's always the male teacher who has to go to prison and is called sick and despicable and awful and a smear upon culture and society. Whereas in this movie, they actually portray it that it's the young girl who wants to have sex with her teacher. She's encouraging it, she's pursuing it, she's leading it, and she's unaware of the dangers and implications and repercussions that that could have. That's certainly not something you will commonly see, especially in an American movie about young teenage girls.
Look at it this way. It'd be a learning experience.
In that regard, I have to applaud this film, and I have to be somewhat disgruntled about the fact that it's so damn obscure. Now, there is that TV cut. You don't want to see that because it changes the whole movie. There's also a later cut which took all of the original music out. You don't want to see that. There's a cut of it on YouTube which is awful. The original version of the film is widescreen letterbox. It looks beautiful. I implore you to get hold of the widescreen version. You can download it. That is the only way you can see it. You can't buy it on DVD, you can't buy it on Blu-ray. It's not available, nobody's released it. It came out on iTunes for a little while and then they took it down. Maybe because they thought the subject matter was inappropriate. Now, I can't tell you to download it because that's illegal. Even though you cannot get it anywhere else, and even though it's a good film that a lot of people worked really, really hard on, and even though it's right there and you can get it really easily if you were to try to find a torrent of it, I am obviously telling you, don't download the film. What I'm saying is, under no circumstances should you download the movie at those websites where it's free and you can get it in widescreen with the original music as it was meant to be seen. Anyway, I suggest you find it somehow, check it out. Little Darlings is very interesting.
Move your butt, Squirt. Pushy mothers.
I'll be back again for more obscure movies of the week next Friday. Same YouTube channel, same place, same me, same you. Take care.